All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started again. I will, right now we have these, after the sessions wrap up and during lunch, we're going to have a couple of sponsor things posted. We have a couple of coupon codes, actually. Arcus Tech gave us a coupon code for, I think, 6 months free on a new VPS thing, hosting account. So I'll tell you more about that later. I just wanted to make sure you guys know about it so that if you miss it or whatever, we can get that to you, because it's only for people at the conference. And we have another one from Bold Minded too, I think, right? Anyhow, I'll do that over lunch. So we're really excited to present Geoff Cowan, who's going to be talking about ExpressionEngine performance tips and tricks, supercharging EE, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Great. And Geoff has been a great supporter of the conference, coming very far.
Miles,
I think you
miles and miles.
Well, I mean, no, and
previously,
every other conference, I think you like win the farthest traveled for the conference.
But Denver was a long way away.
Yeah. But this year we're happy to make it a little easier trip for you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I like starting with a standing ovation, but it was a sitting ovation, so I'll have it. Hello. So yeah, I'm Geoff. I'm really pleased to be here. I'm really pleased that you're all here. It's great to see the community together on this side of the pond. We're really pleased that you did it, and a huge thanks to the committee and the organizing people that put this together. I think it's hard to appreciate just how much work goes into it behind the scenes, and we are hugely grateful. So thank you to them. So yeah, who am I? I'm Geoff. I run an agency called Orionesque. We've been around for far too long, bumbling along, trying to figure out what we're doing. I've gone through phases of it being an agency and building up teams to going, that's far too much like hard work. And now it's basically me and whoever I bring in ad hoc. We do sites for end users, from tiny little companies to huge multinational scary people who make us sign NDAs so we can't talk about them. And also we do a lot of work with other agencies. So I have had so many email addresses over the years where I am Geoff at insert your agency here. It gets a little bit confusing opening Gmail sometimes. Which one am I? So yeah, I've been running around with ExpressionEngine since 1.7 point something like that. I lived through the joy that was the transition to ExpressionEngine 2, which I think many of you here did. All of the pink, it was good. Yeah, and I'm based down, deepest Devon. So I meant to put a map up, but basically head to Cornwall and slam the brakes on, basically down in the southwest of England. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about performance today, and specifically I'm talking about server performance. I'm really not going into that front end stuff. That whole world of joy is for other people. I don't touch that sort of stuff. If it's got CSS or assets or this, that, and the other, no, I can just about chop up HTML. So what I'm really talking about is something called time to first byte. So this is how long between the initial request from a user or an agent or whatever it is until the server starts saying, here's some content. And really we want the faster the better every single time. It's important for Google loves it, other agents love it. The faster it is, users love it. It's all good. So yeah, how do you see what time to first byte is? So in your developer tools, it's basically this little bit combined, what's happening, plus all this extra funky stuff at the beginning, which is DNS negotiations and TCP, ICP networking stuff that's going on. Not really going to go into that too much. Basically, for that first bit of the stuff, get a decent DNS host that can handle this stuff fast. Your $5 hosting probably might not handle it very well. I love these animations. So yeah, that's just clarifying it. Essentially, we're looking at this chunky little blue bit. So how do we monitor it? one way is, as I've just seen, go into Chrome or whichever browser of choice and look at that a little bit every time, but that gets a bit boring. So there's a couple of tools out there. So this TTFBSH is on GitHub. It's a great little shell script that basically sits on top of curl and grabs the important bits of data out of it and does a bit of maths and presents it to you, which I'll show you in a second. And then next is Lighthouse, which is essentially Google's page performance thing that you can run locally. So that will generate those performance reports. And again, you can interrogate that. You can output it as JSON or CSVs or XMLs and throw it around as you want to. So yeah, this is TTFB. You basically tell it how many times to hit sites, which sites to hit, and then I'm just literally throwing it into a text file and overwriting it every time. You could, of course, expand on this. On GitHub, they've got some issues. So if you're feeling generous, you could expand it to actually output in some decent format like JSON or something where you could really throw it into some stuff that's meaningful. But this tends to get you the first things of what's actually happening. So what are we recording? Just told you. I'm really looking for that time to first byte, and we're aiming for as quick as possible. And a key thing to worry about is who's using your site, where are they? Because obviously if you're, and where your host is, and where this thing is, so if all of your users are in Guatemala and you're hosting the site in Denver, why? Why not get it a bit closer to those people and measure it from where your users are? Because if those are the only people that are using it, forget about the rest of the world. They're not looking at it. But be specific is my advice. So once you've got all this data that we're recording in various ways, where are we putting it? So there are things like Grafana and Datadog and things like that which can do monitoring that can pull in from various places. And equally, they can be used to build up dashboards. Now, I've seen a lot of dashboards over the years. I've built quite a few of them over the years. They look great. You have them in your big corporate office somewhere in the ops room, and there's lots of green flashing lights and red flashing lights and stuff going on. After about a day or two, they tend to get ignored. So I kind of see them as a bit pointless most of the time, to be fair. But if you want to do it and it floats your boat and it makes somebody on the board happy, go for it. My one of choice is generally Grafana. That's got a whole bunch of plugins that you can run on your server that will monitor all the various different aspects of what's going on. And then the next one down, Speed Vitals. That can do you, if you are truly global and care about things, that will do you time to first byte from servers around the world for a small fee. And it's pretty helpful. Okay, so what are we assuming here? Caveats and a disclaimer and a please don't sue me message. I'm just an amateur at these things. So I love transitions. So yeah, I'm generally assuming you're running some form of LAMP, running your ExpressionEngine site. If you are using Nginx and things like that, that's fine. And a lot of this talk will still be relevant. It's just not what I tend to use most of the time. But I say the similar things basically apply. And yeah, this is a huge topic. I do this as a lot of my business, where I get pulled in to ask, why is my site slow? Can you improve things? I'm learning every day. And putting this talk together, there was a whole bunch of research. I didn't know that. So it's endless. So yeah, essentially, monitor what's happening, record it, tweak something, test it, repeat over again. It's a very much an iterative process. And when it comes to getting this time to first byte down, you're often talking about shaving off milliseconds. It's 10 here, it's 5 here, it's 20 here, but suddenly they all start to add up. And as I say, on the front end side of things, to actually get the whole page loaded, that's for somebody else to do. But yeah, you'll know there's a whole bunch of fun stuff you can do with CDNs and getting places in the right place and your assets all going things so the whole site comes down. But really, yeah, we're looking at that, getting the server to respond. Okay, so starting off, so the tractor, by the way, is down in deepest Devon. I sort of have a fantasy of pretending to be a farmer half the time. I bought a house which had far too much land, and when I'm not in front of one of these, I tend to be dreaming of owning a tractor and sort of chopping down trees and things like that. It's we all have to live in a fantasy land sometimes. Yeah, so basically, yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff when it comes to hardware. So this is your actual host. Where is your host? Who is your host? What are they doing? And yeah, is it good enough? Who picked it? Did you as an agency pick it? Are you hosting for them? Or did the end client insist that you use, ABC hosting? Are you stuck with them? Hopefully not, because there's a whole bunch of really, really pants hosts out there. But there's some really good ones as well. Equally, yeah, where is it and where are the users, as I keep saying? If your users are primarily in North America, as fast as the internet is and as amazing as it is, it still makes sense to host it there. It shaves off time, so it's good. And then, yeah, do we manage it directly? Is it a fully managed server? Is it a fully manage it yourself server? How much control have you got over it? And essentially, if you're running something like WHM and cPanel or Plesk or something like that, you probably haven't got a great deal of control over what's going on. But the server admins that are running it, you can go away, will hopefully know what they're doing and can get in and tune this. Equally, is it truly a dedicated server? I run into this a lot where people say, oh, I've got my own server, I've got my own box. And I say, so it's your physical metal, it's just yours, that's all it is? And it's like, yeah, definitely. And then you're like, but there's 5,000 other clients on this bit of metal. Oh, I thought it was dedicated. So how good is it? And again, some of those are the less scrupulous hosts, and how well isolated those are and how well the resources are distributed. I've encountered a fair few where it's fairly leaky, sort of the impact that other sites can have. So again, it does depend on your host. And yeah, can we get away with $20 a year hosting? You can. I wouldn't. I'd rather have an easy life and sort of sleep at night. But yeah, you can. I think there's a kind of a theme with some developers and some sort of us techie people where you want to get the most you can out of the minimum hardware. It's kind of a challenge and things like that. And I respect that. I understand that. But yeah, generally, you get what you pay for, and make sure that you've got what you need depending upon what the site's doing, the level of traffic it's doing, the number of users, all that sort of stuff. And you say a lot of ExpressionEngine sites are very, very light. I deal with a lot of sites that are basically brochure sites. They're not doing any work at all. They're generating like a snap. It's great, but there's others out there that I've encountered that are doing some weird and wacky stuff. And yeah, so yeah, make sure you get your hardware right. Okay, so moving on. I'm assuming Apache. Couple of little things here. Delve into your config file if you've got access to it. There's a whole bunch of stuff there related to how it's set up. And I find that there's a lot of hosting packages out there where when you spin up an instance or a new server, they deploy the same config file almost regardless of what machine you're on. So you might have a machine with 16 gig of RAM and the config file is still set up from the 90s with when 8 meg of RAM was a lot. So check that it's set up. Google is your friend. ChatGPT is brilliant for this, for making config files. It just go and say, explain to me what this does. It's genius for it. So next up is logging. By default, Apache logs a lot of stuff. Do you ever look at it? Do you legally need to keep it in whichever region you're in? And what are you logging? Generally, if I can, I tend to keep the errors on, but turn the rest off. Again, it's tiny, but every time it's writing to disk. It's a tiny little impact every single time. Get rid of it. And then the slightly contentious one is about allow override. So this is htaccess. So these are these lovely little files that you can sit to do things like removing index.php from your ExpressionEngine site, doing a lot of redirects. I've seen htaccess files that are thousands of lines long with endless redirects and weird rules and cache headers and this, that, and the other. If you can, don't put it in there. Put it in HTTP-conf somewhere. The reason being is that every single request to your server loads that file and passes it. So if you've got some huge, big, chunky files every single time, not only does it load that one, it works its way up through the tree of your directory structure looking for HT accesses. So it might well be loading half a dozen of these files, processing each of them, and applying the rules that was the last one it found. It's also a bit of a, trying not to swear, a cluster to get your head around of managing sometimes. So yeah, sort of, put it in one place, manage it if you've got access to it. The last one is a tiny one. By default, hostname lookups are generally off these days. But this is where, especially with logging, it will try and convert an IP to a hostname. So it does a DNS lookup on every single request. You really don't want that. If you are still logging stuff and you're logging IPs and you're logging this and you want to look some stuff up, process that offsite, give it to somebody else, because your web server should be sit there just going, give. It doesn't want to be doing all this processing stuff that some guy in marketing is going to look at in a year's time. And lastly, yeah, modules. So Apache by default comes with a whole bunch of modules. Run through them. Do you actually need half the stuff? Because some of them are fairly specific. And again, depending on your host, how many of them have been installed by default. A lot of hosts will sort of say, throw everything, give people everything, because then it stops support requests for when somebody wants some obscure module. Yeah, you probably don't need half the stuff. Are you doing weird XSLT transforms from the 1980s and stuff? You're probably not. Ditch it. Okay, the fun stuff. PHP. Keep, of course, keep the thing updated. I still encounter a lot of old servers. A lot of sites, there's still a lot of EE2 sites out there, and beyond. There's still a lot running on 5.4. It's scary. That got deprecated about 100 years ago. And it does make a huge difference. I think yesterday, Freak was saying about how it's every version gets more optimized, gets faster, gets better. And I've got a slide in a second that sort of shows you some sort of numbers of those sorts of things. It makes a difference, just how much it can handle. Mod PHP, FPM. Don't worry, this does get sexier in a moment. Generally, mod PHP is a single version that gets embedded with Apache every time and runs every time Apache runs as a process, whereas the modular one is on it. The FPM is its own lovely server. Generally, most places I find tend to use FPM these days. It's great. You can run multiple different versions of PHP on the same server. You have a whole bunch of settings that I'll show you in a second, which can apply how many servers or workers get spawned at any one time and how much memory they can all be allocated, how much stuff they can do. And again, this is a key part where often I find that it hasn't been tuned for the server it's on. It's been blanket installed with a kind of a generic for a site with not a lot of RAM. And these days, yeah, RAM is pretty cheap, so servers tend to be pretty beefy these days. So I'm going to risk it. That one. Way, it worked. Okay, so this is a bit of the INI file, which is running. So the PS, the processing, whichever one it is, PM, process manager. So we're basically here saying, how much RAM has the server got? Let's leave some for the rest of the OS and things to sort of tickle along on its side. And then the rest of it, let's figure out how many servers we could technically run at once before the server runs out of RAM and the whole thing falls over and catches fire. So I use generally just the template profile manager or top on the command line to basically watch as people are hitting the site and say, how much is the average using? Bearing in mind, as my sort of top tip, the front end of ExpressionEngine tends to be incredibly light. Unless you're doing some really wild and wacky stuff, you can easily get away with like 5, 10, 20 meg for page loads if it's not doing anything too crazy. Again, every site's different. You may be sort of connecting to a space station and doing weird stuff. tune it. But equally, what I've done several times is that often it's the control panel side of things that's doing the heavy lifting. So that's processing big chunky images, it's passing PDFs, it's connecting to third-party services and doing weird and wacky stuff. So I'll often host that on a separate server with a hell of a lot of RAM that can use to what it's doing. And then on the main public-facing server, that CMS simply pulls in the data that's already been processed through something like data grab, and just take the heavy lifting off, at which point your main web server can be flying, serving your users, which is what it's meant to do, and keeping everybody happy. So again, just these little settings. They should be fairly self-explanatory. So this is basically 6 gig divided by 150 equals roughly 40. We're saying always, every time it starts, have at least 10, always have 5 in reserve, but never have more than 15 in reserve. So sort of manage the things. Again, this is something is tweak, test, play with. So if you want to see how to make your site fall over, once you've got these on, and obviously you're never doing this on production, honest, is things like AB, so that's Apache benchmark, or there's a great tool called Siege, which basically allows you to launch a denial of service attack against yourself. It's awesome. So you can basically say simulate 1,000 concurrent users hitting this endpoint, and it will give you a whole bunch of stats saying good, 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 not good, not good, fail. At which point, go back to this, tweak it, run it again. Let's see how far you can get. And I use that quite a lot. It's a great tool. It's free. I think it's one of those. It's one of the ones where when you go to the website, it looks like it was sort of developed in the 90s, and it probably was, but it works. So it's a great bit of kit. So yeah, opcache, this is generally with PHP is enabled by default. This basically takes functions this and then turns it into bytecode and makes it super duper fast and whizzy, unless you've got a very good reason, which I haven't thought of one yet. Put it on. And lastly, and this is a bit of a nag to some add-on developers that haven't thought things through. SQL is brilliant at messing around with data. But I see a lot of people using PHP to do all the filtering in the data. So they do this trick where they kind of essentially go, select everything from that table, limit 9 million, and then they go, for each of that data, if ID equals 26, do something. That's an extreme case, but it's just like, don't do it. SQL is great at doing that stuff. Okay, so this is a little bit of that stat. So this is from a hosting company called Kinster, and they did some benchmarks on the different versions. And yeah, it leaps quite a bit for what you can achieve. Every version gets better, and I'm guessing now with 8.4 and 8.5, it will be better. I haven't seen any benchmarks on EE for that, but it's probably one of those things that'd be quite fun to have a play with, because I expect it's fairly dramatic what's going on. Okay, the joy that is SQL. Yeah, it's often the biggest bottleneck. It's often where things go wrong. Inefficient queries, trying to handle too much. Again, there's so many config files in this talk. Badly set up servers that are just not able to handle enough, at which point they start queuing and they start offloading and they start writing things to disk and swapping all over the place. And that's the way your servers die. So yeah, make sure it's all looking good, and I'll come to those in a second. The slow query log, that's a mouthful. This is something that generally by default, again, is turned off, and it's worth turning on intermittently, I find, and let's see what's happening. So this allows you on a server-wide basis to turn on slow query logging. So you can set a threshold for if any query takes over a certain amount of time in seconds, log it, at which point you can then review it, at which point you normally find some big, chunky, horrible joins happening somewhere that has got carried away by itself, and therefore find it, go in and tune it and improve it, and then turn off slow query logging, because again, performance, it's having to think about doing something all the time, which you generally don't want it doing. Again, your production server especially, it should be just serving data. So is it indexes or indices? it's one of those. Generally, ExpressionEngine itself is pretty good. It's got indexes in the right place in the core. Generally, you want an index as a loose rule of thumb anywhere where you're doing a select where or where you're doing a join on is the loose thing. Remember that also if you're doing a select where with a function on,
But beyond that, do you have any recommendations for like services that are good for hosting?
As in hosts?
Yeah.
Not really. I think there's a few. I think one of our lovely sponsors, do have tweets. Wow, okay. What is this doing? And they're very good. But generally, I mean, again, without going on to too much of a diatribe, I find a lot of the so-called cloud providers, and I'm sure that Lyft, is it called, will not fall into this trap, are kind of a byword for we don't know where your server is. And I kind of get a bit nervous of that. Sometimes I like a machine where I know where it is. Does that help at all?
Yeah, it does for sure. For
Yeah.
me, like all that stuff, tweaking,
Yeah.
PHP,
Yeah.
files, that scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, it scares the hell out of me. But sometimes, just dive in and do it. What's the worst that could go wrong? Any other questions? Tim?
So when you were talking about TTFB for your most important client.
Yep.
So I have a client who has audiences that their most important audience are local or regional,
Mm-hmm.
but the traffic that they get is like highly international, and they don't actually care about those users because they're a great resource for those folks, but they're not going to become a physical client, right?
They're not going to become a customer. Or, yeah,
Yes,
okay.
So the question is, when you report out on the TTFB, do you know of is there a way to specify and say, only give me North American clients or some regional and ignore anybody?
Pretty much, yeah. So you can, so with the service that I said, the one with the small monthly fee, that one you can just specify, I only want North America. So they've got a bunch of services around the world, and so you can say, I don't care what's happening in Australia. If it takes them 5 minutes to load my site, good for them. But yeah, you can specify for that. Equally, what I've done sometimes with like the command line tools is if I really want to know, is I just simply will SSH into a server in that part of the world or in that same date or somewhere. So I'm getting accurate thing because a lot of my clients are North American, and therefore, I'm obviously pinging over from here. And at the moment, I'm in the middle of nowhere on Starlink, and yeah, my results might be a bit skewed by things going on. So yeah, sort of proxies and VPNs and things like that often come into handy. Also, just a thing that I missed actually on that point is again that where your customer and what time of day. So it's great to monitor at different times of the day, because you'll have some sites that are super busy on North American Central Time, sort of lunch times when everybody checks, the crossword or whatever it happens to be, and others where it's evening time in Japan. So make sure that you're recording this stuff at the right time of day to really sort of monitor it. And that's why I say sometimes having those scripts running on a cron or a bat or some sort of repeating thing on a schedule is great, just to sort of see throughout the day and hit where the high points are. Hopefully that helps.
Did you cover MyTop? That's something you've ever used?
I use HTOP.
HTOP?
Yeah, that's like.
HTOP is great, like MyTop's MySQL top.
No.
So it's the slow query log will kind of give you the same thing, but MyTop is just kind of like
a real time what's going on.
Yeah. It'll just try to show you like, what select statement
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of other services that hook into that. So I think the one that Freak had yesterday, his is starting to top into sort of like the monitoring of actual services of essentially that data that's being released. And there's a bunch of them you can, again, I tend to find it's great, those services when your server's on fire, of going, what is it that hold on? Normally, but then it's a bit too late. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what my top does. I don't really use it that much. But no, thank you.
And I also found that it's one of the, I mean, there's many things the AI can like do. Like, wow, that's useful. But like, paste a log.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's just like, I don't know what this means.
Yeah.
And, like GPT will sometimes just suggest like the FPM tunings. Like, sure.
Yeah. What does that mean? It's this. Yeah. Use it. Sounds a great tool. Okay. Thank you.
Just going back to your point about when you said just how dynamic does the site be. In a lot of cases, it's a marketing site. Do you ever, I mean, essentially it can be saved as a static.
Correct, yeah, like with something like Speedy or others that you can basically essentially just,
Speedy, I think I worked with Clark Head's CDN.
Yeah.
I was wondering if, like you have things like Netlify.
I've done things in extreme cases before where if essentially your site is pretty much static, I've stuck things like Varnish in front of sites if it's getting ridiculously high traffic, because that you're not going to get much faster than that. That's fast. But then that's only when it becomes truly static at that point. Any others?
Greg Marr from New Jersey had a question. He was wondering, how far is your home?
Far enough away so it's a long walk.
Okay.
Thank you very much.